Costco burning buildings and the end of debate season. That's what's on our minds as we talk about the end of the legislative sitting for the spring. Our political panel is here to talk about it. Murray Mandryk writes a political column in the Regina Leader-Post and Saskatchewan Star-Phoenix. And we're joined by Jeremy Symes, who covers the legislature for the Canadian Press. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Murray.
Good morning.
So, Jeremy, we'll start with Costco, and this has been a big subject in the Regina area this week. This came up in the legislature. What were the concerns of the opposition?
Yeah, so the opposition NDP is just really concerned about how the Global Transportation Hub, which is a Crown corporation, nearly hijacked the construction of a new Costco in Regina. So Regina's been in dire need of this new Costco. We have the one in the East End. It's very busy if you've ever been. So people have been really looking forward to a new one. Costco worked with a private developer and found the best location would be in the Westera neighborhood in Regina, which is in the west end of town. And according to Forster Harvard Development, the agreement to purchase land in Westera happened in June 2024. Time goes by, people who shop at Costco are wondering what is happening. We haven't seen any updates here. We see it goes to City Council, this item, that Costco was actually now looking at the Global Transportation Hub to build a new retail site. And the agreement for Westera was ended in December 2024. So the city, seeing this, really wants Costco back in Westera. So they're basically forced to provide about $7 million in tax incentives to give Costco a bit of a break to bring them back to Regina. So it looks like now it's going to be back in Westera. And the goal really of having it in Regina is to spur housing development, spur other business development. City councilors were saying, Westera is in dire need just of a bit of a boost right now. And so the NDP were just saying they want the Saskatchewan Party government to apologize for how this went down. They want the province to even pay back the city for whatever happened here. Now, the GTH CEO is saying that it was Costco's realtors that went to Colliers, which is the GTH's realtors, to look at this land. It sounds like, Costco wanted maybe a distribution hub, and that's why the GTH was considering it. They're not wanting a distribution hub. It's just a retail space. And so now it's back in Westera, and it's kind of a done deal there.
And when it comes to this deal, and we haven't heard about the GTH in a while, and presumably, Murray, that's because things are operating as they should have been from the start, presumably with things going out there. It's an inland terminal.
Well, it's really sad to see that GTH ruin its spotless record of not having controversy, isn't it? Yeah, that's correct.
So what do you make of this, Murray? Because for people that aren't in the Regina area, the GTH is quite a bit a ways from the city proper. Westera is a new development, but it's still within the city limits.
I think it's a question of who played who, but I don't think that actually is the question, because ultimately it comes down to what is the role of the GTH. And I don't think putting up a Costco retailer in an area where we got a lot of trucks coming in and turning and everything else, I have enough problems finding parking space in Costco. I'll tell you this.
I see you drive.
I love Costco. I just want to do my Costco ad here. I love buying things in bulk. I love getting a bargain. My whole wardrobe is Costco. I'm Mr. Kirkland. But honestly, there's been some notion out there that, it's not really the province's fault because obviously the developers and or Costco went in and got the best deal and applied leverage and whatnot. No, tell me what the business of the GTH is, because I don't think they're in retail, and I don't think this provincial government is in retail. I know that because I don't see any government liquor stores anymore. I don't see anything that suggests that they should be in this business. But what I see is this massive history of problems in the GTH under this government from the early days when they were, flipping land that used to belong to nuns for significant profits of people that had strangely interesting connections to either Bill Boyd or the Sask Party. And to today's controversy, it's been one after the other. There should probably be a long-term inquiry into the government's handling of this particular venue, because I don't think they know what they're supposed to be doing. I think they basically stuck their nose into this deal, or at least someone thought that they had the ability to use them for leverage. It would have been really easy for GTH to government says, no, we're not selling you any land for this. This is not our business. But I don't think even the government or the GTH really knows fully what their business is. And their business seems to be getting into one mess after another.
And Jeremy, I mentioned yesterday the spring sitting came to an end. What were the main messages of the party leaders as they said goodbye to you folks and everyone else?
Yeah, I'm sure they're happy to say goodbye. Premier Scott Moe opened his remarks saying, Saskatchewan's remained strong and steady throughout this turbulent time with tariffs. And he's saying, we should look back at these past few months and be pretty happy with what we've accomplished. He says, Saskatchewan's leading the nation in job growth and on key economic indicators. And so we should be proud of that. He talked about a reset with the federal government under this new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. He says he's going to give Carney a bit of a chance to deliver on some of the items that he is asking for, clean electricity regulations, canola tariffs, what have you, and that he's really willing to work with Carney on that, even if some people say he shouldn't be working with the federal government. Now, opposition NDP leader Carla Beck, her main message was talking about this whole idea of the flames of separation kind of flaring up in the province, and how the premier, she says, is failing to douse those flames. She alluded to this big bucket of water he has, and he could just put an end to all of this by making it harder for a plebiscite or a referendum on separation to happen. She had her bill in the session this week that would have made it harder for that vote. That bill did not go to a vote yesterday, so once the new session starts, it's likely just to die in the order paper, so the NDP might have to bring that up again if they want to. Now, Moe was asked about separation, and he says, I'm not interested in it. The province is not interested in separating. And, he talked about this idea of alienation and how alienation and separation can sometimes, those lines can get blurred a little bit. People who are talking about separation maybe feel more like they're alienated, he's saying. And he's even said himself he's felt that disenfranchisement out there. But that's not going to stop him from at least trying to work with the federal government.
Murray, what are your big takeaways from this last number of weeks?
Well, in regard to separation and the whole alienation question, I think Scott Moe doesn't get enough credit for his political chops some days in terms of how he can properly message to an angry bunch. And you sort of look at what's going on in Alberta that's driving this, and how Scott Moe sometimes comes across as the voice of reason, which is kind of weird because the voice of reason in my mind should be saying right now, of course we're staying in Canada, and I condemn separatists. That's a pretty easy one politically. But it gets complicated really quickly in today's day and age when the driving force behind political parties is small interest groups that get involved and can basically message something that appeals to a larger group, and I think that's pretty much happening on the separation question. I think Scott Moe gets that more than the NDP get that, because their bill is, I think, justified as it probably was, given the nature of the thing. We're talking about, breaking up the country, removing this province from the country, because it was kind of a ludicrous idea. We're kind of landlocked here. It doesn't really solve any of our problems. But Scott Moe gets, in a way that I think Carla Beck doesn't, the anger and the frustration, and how most people in Saskatchewan aren't interested in separation, but are interested in sending the strongest message to Ottawa possible after another federal Liberal government. And that message is, we're unhappy here, and we want to keep upping the ante in terms of suggesting that we're unhappy and frustrated out here. And he gets that. Now, is that to suggest that Scott Moe and the Sask Party government won the session or did better? No, because I've never seen a government go into a session with such an incredible variety of problems. The budget, we talked about Costco, and which was just a mess. MLAs putting their foot in their mouth, brand new MLAs, by the way. So this shouldn't be happening for 2-3 years down the road until at least they get comfortable with their own stupidity within the House structure. Unfortunately, it's happening a little faster than normal. And given the bunch that they replaced, one wouldn't think this would be as big a problem for Scott Moe, but I think his problems are ongoing in the Sask Party government. I think that this whole issue related to deep divisions and trying to get a handle on the far right is a huge problem. All this came out to the forefront in this session. I think the NDP should have been able to capitalize better. They get too focused on one clever strategy that they have, and this petition was obviously cute by half, in terms of the distance, and not missing the bigger picture that people want to have some vehicle to express their anger. There was a lot of NDP mistakes. I'm thinking of the situation when they said NICU babies were being shipped to North Dakota, which simply wasn't true. Whether you heard it on a news report or you planted that idea yourself or whatever the situation might be, you don't go into the legislature with accusations like that, because you are going to have your own credibility hurt. And by the way, I think people, the NDP, are being judged in a different way now that they have a significant number of members that could possibly form government next time. And there's this different standard for this. The whole issue related to the Republican law firm that Brad Wall hired, those many years ago, donating to Republicans. Well, gee, that's hardly shocking. And I don't think it's top of mind for people. But once again, this was sort of some clever discovery that the NDP thought they had, that they torqued into something that was sort of probably a bigger deal to them than it was to the public. And I think that's kind of where the NDP kind of lost their way. But that said, the government lost their way from day one. The budget was a little bit of a joke. It was never balanced, and they're still singing this song that it's balanced. They didn't have a strategy to deal with the tariffs, and even though we're not seeing the level of tariffs in Donald Trump's gamesmanship, it's still problematic because it's kicking the crap out of our economy right now, and oil prices and other things that affect the ability to pay for our bills are hurting. They don't have a strong cabinet with people capable of taking care of detailed things. Anytime there's a controversial issue, there seemed to be a reluctance to send out a minister, whomever it might be, because they didn't have the general competence that they had prior to the election when they lost the likes of Don Morgan and Gord Wyand and Dustin Duncan and Donna Harpower and good solid people over the last term. So they have their own problems that are coming home to roost right now. The NDP, gifted with those problems, should be able to do better than I think they did last session. I think both parties need to take a very serious reset over the summer before they get into another fall sitting.
Murray, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Jeremy, thank you as well.
Thank you.
That's Murray Mandryk, writes a political column in the Regina Leader-Post, and Saskatoon Star Phoenix, and Jeremy Symes, who covers the legislature for Saskatchewan for the Canadian Press.